We told you about a very popular Twisted Sister hit that's been adopted by Ukrainians. Yeah, so the band has given its seal of approval to the song "We're Not Gonna Take It" to be used as a battle cry with good reason. The band has ties to Ukraine, and to talk more about it, we're joined by guitarist, manager, and co-founder of Twisted Sister, JJ French. JJ, thanks for joining us here on CP24 Breakfast. You recorded this song on January 1st, 1984. Did you ever, in your wildest dreams, think that it would become a battle cry for Ukrainian people defending themselves?
First of all, thank you, Nick and Jennifer, for having me. I'm in Mexico right now, and I was on vacation after a 5-month book tour for my new book, and then reality hits you in the face. And then you're confronted with the perspective of life and what's really important. When we recorded that song in 1984, there was no way to have anticipated the resonance of that song and the meaningfulness of that song over the years. But starting about 20 years ago, it was adopted as a battle cry by some politician at some point. And we had heard about it. And then it started coming up more and more and more and more and more. And then all of a sudden, the floodgates opened. And we realized that the song was just gigantic. And then NPR ran a survey of the top 30 songs that unite Americans. This was a couple of years ago. And on that survey, there was Blowin' in the Wind, We Shall Overcome, you know, the standard songs that unite people in times of crisis, especially. And We're Not Gonna Take It wound up at number 3, ahead of Born in the USA and We Shall Overcome and Blowin' in the Wind. And I sat there and I went, oh my God, this is a universal battle cry. So it has evolved into that.
Wow. You know, JJ, we've also seen Ukrainians using your song now as their resistance anthem, but another group, let's just say some of the anti-maskers, anti-vaxxers, or people in the recent truck convoy here in Canada have also used it as their kind of anthem. And your frontman, Dee Snider, was pretty vocal about saying, hey, that song, our song, is really not for you.
Yeah, it's an interesting dichotomy, because I'm old enough, first of all, to have gone back to, let's just say this. I lived through the Cuban Missile Crisis when I was 10 years old, and I lived through the Vietnam War. And if you go back to the 60s and you look at the political landscape of the 60s, you'll notice that it was a united group of people. It was young people, basically don't trust anybody over 30, versus the establishment. So when you went to a concert, in fact, Woodstock, 400,000 people, and you stood up on stage and you said, "We hate the president," all 400,000 people agreed. End the war, all 400,000 people agreed. It seemed that everything that we wanted was agreed to by everybody. And times have drastically changed. And now you have these situations in which groups who have different opinions feel different ways, and then you have to kind of mitigate your existence through this. Because my band is a band of essentially 4 surviving members with different political views that run the gamut. You've got people from the left and you have people from the right. So we take a position where individually we can make a statement. This is how Dee feels about his situation. I am from New York City. We were devastated by COVID. To us, it was never a rights issue of you're inhibiting my liberty. We needed to live. We were wiped out. 30,000 New Yorkers died. One of the first people to ever die from COVID in New York City was a high school friend of mine. I mean, I've got 6 people who died within the first 3 months. We never looked at this thing as a liberty issue. This was a health issue. So we don't really understand this issue. As New Yorkers, it's kind of alien to us. It's always, well, wait a minute, you get a measles shot when you're young. You know, you do these things when you're young to prevent health crises. And as far as we were concerned, this was done to prevent the overwhelming disaster to the health systems of various countries that were being overrun by people who were sick and dying. So I can't say that in terms of, that's a personal opinion from Dee, a personal opinion from me. However, again, as Dee pointed out, and he sent out a press release, the song is the song is the song. People are going to adopt it. If you're asking us to take stances on it, we rarely do take, as a band, stances because we reflect a myriad of views within the context.
And JJ, just to sort of interrupt, but we're running short on time. You have connections to Ukraine, both you and Dee, and that makes this, I'm sure, even the more personal.
Well, it's a humanitarian crisis. My grandparents were from Odessa, and Dee's were as well. And this is a humanitarian crisis and an incalculable crisis that no one could have anticipated. You know, you go through life and you see some things and you go through some crises. You know, we went through crises, obviously, with the Kennedy assassination here in the United States, Martin Luther King, Bobby Kennedy, of course, 9/11, all these things. You go through these signposts of life and you say to yourself, man, we got through this. How are we going to get through the next one? Nobody could have foreseen this. This was not foreseen by anybody. We're watching a humanitarian disaster, and it happens to also affect ancestors from our families, but regardless of whether it was personal with us, this is a worldwide crisis. This is genocide. This is awful. People are hurting. I mean, people around the world are hurting watching these people being slaughtered. And there's no end game in sight. And it is absolutely horrible to watch. I think I expressed this on behalf of millions of people who go, where's this ending? Where's this going? Why do we have to have the threat of nuclear arms? I mean, I remember having to hide under my desk in public school doing a test in case a nuclear bomb went off in New York City. I never thought I'd have to deal with that again. And here you have this madman doing this and destroying a country, and it's awful to watch it.
Okay. JJ French, a guitarist from Twisted Sister, really appreciate you coming on to CP24 Breakfast to share with us the history of the song and your story. Thank you.
Thanks, JJ.